Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome to Mealworms and More on a wonderful Friday afternoon, March 10th. We're going to wait our normal 3 to 4 minutes and then we will get rolling. We had a problem with comments last week. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. If somebody could do the obligatory audio and video for me. Audio and video check. Looks like everything's running okay on my end. Rodney, good afternoon. I can see the comment. We're off to a good start. Keith, welcome. Keith, I need to double check that now. I got the wireless sensor and the infrared thermometer. I'll order that. Hopefully that should be here early next week. I'll do some testing and playing and get some comparison videos up. Thank you, Lucas. Good to see you. All right, a couple more minutes and we will get rolling. Had a busy day here today. It was a good day. Nathan, welcome. I hope the mites are not still as bad as they were. Hopefully they're better, right? I spent this morning talking with a group of friends. One of them was a mushroom farmer, talking about frass, mealworm frass, black soldier fly larva frass, all sorts of fun stuff. So, good times. Keith, awesome. Looking forward to the results. Congratulations on the winners. Yes, 2 winners for the Inkbird giveaway, the air sensor. And I had somebody reach out with a question around maybe we could go through some of the data points that it collects and talk through thoughts on like analysis and what it means and how we could use that data. So I didn't have time this week to prepare for that. I think that was yesterday. It might have been the day before. My days are blurring together. Yesterday was a day off for family stuff, last minute illness that happened. So but I thought that was a good idea. So I'm going to pull the data from mine and start playing around, and then we'll see if we can get some of that squared away and chat about that. That was a really good suggestion. But yeah, 2 winners in the Inkbird giveaway, the 8-in-1 sensor, and the links for the... So if you didn't win, I didn't win. If you didn't win, there are links in a post that I put out in the group for 20 to 25 to 30% off. I think it varies based on US, Canada, and also the product. But multiple products that Inkbird was able to provide some discounts for us. Thank you again, Mr. Sage, for getting that ball rolling and getting some good stuff to the co-op. All right, we are officially 4 after. Oh man, I don't have my water. Okay, that'll be fun. I'll try to not cough. So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. If anybody has come and has not been to one of these before, my name is Justin Meyer. I am an admin in the Mealworm Farming Co-op Facebook group, and we do one of these live sessions. We are now every other week, so every 2 weeks I'll put one of these out. Our next one was supposed to be next week, but I have been called in for jury duty, so I wanted to go ahead and get one in rather than play the game of am I going to have to go or not, am I going to get called or not, and decided to get this one out this afternoon. So a little bit of a change in schedule, but we're going to roll with it. As you guys have questions about mealworms, so what we're here to do is learn from each other, help each other, and celebrate some successes and learn from our failures. So if you have questions, comments, things you are wanting to know or curious about, please throw them out in those comments. We'll start going through those. If somebody asks a question or comment and it doesn't look like I have addressed it or gotten to it, please ping me on Facebook Messenger. Let me know. Sometimes it doesn't show me everything, but we'll go through and start tackling those and getting things answered. We really like to hear if you're doing something that's working. We want to celebrate all that together and learn from that. And then if you are struggling, a couple things I've been struggling with in the last couple weeks, but if you've got something that's bothering you can't figure out, this is a great place to ask that. So please feel free to do that, and we'll start tackling things. I can't go into the farm today, into the insect room without the mask on. Brett is in there working this afternoon. I was in there doing boxes and bags and some other things to get ready for next week. So I can do that, but I'll have to throw the mask on. All right. Hey, Wally, welcome, sir. Cheryl, good to see you again. Bryce, welcome, welcome. All right. We got a ton of people in here. All right. I love it. So latest things happening here. The sifter, horizontal sifter is on permanent pause. I have decided to hang that up for right now, and I will tackle that again in the future. Right now we are back to using the cement mixing trays with the mesh bottoms. We're going to utilize those. I am going to play around with the motors from the sifting tray and just see if adding a bit of vibration into the table that we're going to do our sifting on with just the mesh is going to be helpful or not. So I'm going to order some 1/10 mesh. That's what we use to harvest out the mediums that end up getting sold and shipped out. And I'm going to make some more sifting trays so that we can start doing multiples at one time, because part of the sifting process without the vibration added in, part of the sifting and harvesting is kind of shaking them around and letting them be. Then that way they get into that mesh and start moving, going down, trying to get away and kind of sort themselves. Give them another shake to help give them a little influence to get through there. And so if I can get multiple ones of those running, we can do multiple trays and just move down the line. So we're going to tackle things that way and see how we can do. Gerard, good evening. From across the way. Glad you're here. Nathan, washing, rinsing mealworms to get mites out. I've heard that it can harm them and also that it won't harm them. It will harm them if you literally drown. It'll harm the mealworms if you literally drown them and don't get that water off. And so it's amazing how much, and you might think you're getting the water off by, Nathan, what I'm thinking is using one of those green sifter pans with one of the finer meshes so that you hold the mealworms in, maybe like the 1/20th or the 1/12th that's in there. 120, 1/12, somewhere, maybe that's the same thing. But one of those meshes that will let the water through and let it drain a little bit, because you'd be amazed how much water is retained in that when you pour that out into a solid bottom tray. And so what I think likely happens is folks are moving a bit too quickly. They don't let that water drain, give it some shakes to get some of that water off, and then make sure that you're giving good surface area so that they're not too deep whenever you put them in that tray, to make sure that they're being dried and not building up water and pooling water that's ultimately going to kill them. Mealworms don't do well in water. So it sounds weird to say, mealworms don't do well in water, but with my exposure now to some black soldier fly larvae, it's an interesting scenario where they respond a little differently. They don't drown immediately. They move around. They enjoy the high humidity. I don't think they want to live in that, but they don't seem to be as prone to being hurt by it with short-term exposure. So, Donna, good to see you. Learn so much from these sessions. Thank you. We love it. Lucas with the fun. I'm going to call that a cat. Fun emoji. We'll go with that. Updates on the BSFL front. Yes. So that is, I am working right now on finding a consistent source of food waste. I'm going to put into place a process of getting the neonates, having those brought in from somebody that raises those. I'm not going to do the breeding. I still am not. So the test breeding bin that's in there, it's not looking too great. And I think that there's a lot to the different light that's necessary. I've just got a lamp, and the lights that are in there, it's just not as efficient as it needs to be. And so it's not doing super well. I didn't expect it to be fantastic or amazing, but it's not something that I think I'm going to even continue to toy with. But what I am going to do is work on building a food waste collection process for the city that I live in, looking into that, as well as maybe some of the grocery stores. And I did reach out to the school district as well, so that I can start collecting that food waste and then going into the processing, getting the larvae in there, letting them grow. I've got a building that I can potentially lease for that, and start getting into that. So I'm very, very impressed with the frass. And I took it to this morning. We went and met with a local farmer here that raises mushrooms, and he's been using the mealworm frass, and we showed him the black soldier fly larva frass. Totally different thing. I mean, it looks like actual dirt, so that's pretty cool. So that's the latest on the soldier fly front. Bryce, you'll have to attach vibratory motor to the screen frame and not the whole structure. I attached it to the whole structure, Bryce, and it shook and it worked until the motors were, or until the trays were below the motor from a horizontal perspective. And anything below where the motor was at. So I attached the motor to the table. We attached our sifting tower to the table, turned the motors on, and everything above the motors worked fine. It sifted them. They were able to sort through in that mock demo, is this even feasible kind of scenario. But it didn't do well with the frass below that plane. And so what I want to do is put them on top, but it did shake the whole table and seemed to work okay. So it accomplished what we were hoping to try to do, just to add a little bit of vibration in there. The goal is not to, like with the horizontal sifter, it was moving them across and then they were falling off, right? So the goal with just the trays is that we're just going to dump our stuff in that we need to sift, have the motors running to add vibration, give them a little shake every now and then just to help it along, and then take that and physically dump it, empty it out. It's not going to be running across like the horizontal sifter was set up to do. Nathan, should I dry them with a paper towel? It's not going to hurt. That would be a quicker way, and then a more efficient way. I don't know if it's necessarily quicker, but it would be a more efficient way of making sure that you've got the moisture out of there. You could potentially just kind of lay them into, put them on a towel, paper towel even, would be fine, which you mentioned here. But a towel too could potentially work. Dump them out on that, roll a little bit, don't go wild or anything, but, I don't think that's going to hurt anything. As long as you take that out when you're done, I wouldn't leave any of that in there. Tristan, bugs are coming Monday. I have not emailed you yet, messaged you yet, but confirmed. Vicky, you are here. You caught me. Yep. Kate, Amazon link to the mask you use, please. I can get you that. It's a 3M full face respirator. We'll get you to the mask. The sizing, I can't remember what the sizing of the chart actually said whenever I purchased mine. I used a large mask. Medium on me was too small. So medium might work well for smaller individuals, I think. I have not purchased a small. So I used the large, and that size has worked well. And I still have, I've bought multiple over the years, and they still last a long time. The part or the piece, let me grab my mask real quick. The piece that you're going to want to be careful with and take good care of, and not beat the living daylights out of, is the piece on the back that goes around the back of your head and holds the mask to your face. What I've found is that these on the bottom, so when you put this on, you're pulling these I just leave set, the top ones. When I pull these, you need to be careful not to pull them too hard when they are cold. So what I found is I keep my masks outside of the farm, so we put them on before we go in. And what I found was in wintertime they would get cold and brittle. And so I, just not thinking, one morning I went out, put my mask on, and just tore the things right off. That was probably a year of use when I did that, and I wasn't taking into account the temperature. So I think that was my fault. I don't think that's like a manufacturer defect or anything, just something to be mindful of. But the rest of these parts and pieces are all original on all the masks that I have. They come apart pretty easily for quick care. So there's some screws on the side, and then this part comes off, and you can take all of this out, clean it really well. We do that about once a month, once every 2 months, to clean it. And then the filters, from a replacement perspective, it's really going to depend on use, right? Like if you're using these things 24/7, 365, you're going to replace them pretty quick. I would say we only replace ours, we're in there all the time, maybe every 4 to 5 months. It really just depends on how much you use it and how dusty it is, all that stuff. What we do is, instead of like timing it, what we'll do is we'll pay attention to, as you're breathing, does it become more difficult? Because that means the filters have filled up. And do you feel the mask kind of pulling in? That's another one, is if there's no air able to come in, you're not going to get that in. But you'll notice pretty quickly when they need to be changed. And so it's good to have just a couple of those on hand, so that you can swap out when you need to. These replacement pieces, these guys, I did buy some what was listed as official 3M replacement pieces, but they were different. So they were cheaper. They were only $10 or $15 a piece instead of $30. Get the 3M ones from 3M, because the ones that I bought didn't appear to be actually 3M OEM type stuff. And the ridges, so on the mask itself, or on the band, there's these ridges that line up here to help hold it tight when you pull it snug. These ridges were not tall enough on the knockoff that I bought, basically. So splurge and get the $30 one as opposed to the cheaper one when you find them. All right, good questions, guys. Tristan, I see that. Thank you. All right. If you guys have questions, please let me know. What else is going on? Oh, my phone moved. Sorry. Things are heating up from a mealworm demand perspective. The birds are coming back, and so I don't know if anyone here has been, any of you who sell your mealworms, if you've seen your demand go up, but it's increased quite a bit in the last probably 3 or 4 weeks. I let my customers know that things were getting tight in general, because I do have a priority process that I follow. Local orders, the folks that I service here, the folks that have been with me the longest get priority. Excuse me, because I sold locally before I sold eBay or websites or anything like that. And so those folks that have been buying from me long term and are local get priority. And then there's wholesale and subscription folks as well. So that's why some of you might have seen some of the inventory being low on the website. It's just because demand is super through the roof right now. So if you can find some good deals on stuff, grab them. But hopefully you guys are having that problem as well of higher demand, lower inventory. Max, welcome. Max Manos. Superworm density, how many per square inch? 1 or 2? Yeah, they can actually be super dense. So Justin Penfold, he is a member here in the co-op group, and he works down at Sunshine State Worms, and I get superworms from him. And I was actually having issues several months ago, months and months, and talked with him about some of the things I was running into. And one of my questions was density. Like, am I making them too dense and causing issues? I was having some die off. It wasn't denso because it wasn't the whole tray, right? Like the whole, when the densovirus for superworms is very prevalent, is a very prevalent issue. And so I thought, oh man, I've got it. But it wasn't the whole tray that was dying. So I chatted with Justin about that, and his density is very high. And so I don't think that they need to be undense. I think that if you are going to pupate them naturally, if you keep them in very low density, even if they're in the same container, if you keep them in very low density, they will get bigger, and then they will pupate. That's not normally what folks do, especially in a captive colony of superworms, because you're trying to purposely get them to pupate, so you separate them out in containers and all that jazz. But if you keep them at very, very low density, they will pupate on their own. I did an experiment probably 3 years ago with a spent mushroom block. I was able to get one of those from a local farmer, and I took that and put it into my superworm tray, and they would burrow into it, and then they would pupate inside of there. Even though there were a bunch of them in there, they would burrow into that guy and tackle it. So it was an interesting experiment. I've personally seen them pupate even though they've all been in together. That's kind of the gist of what I was trying to say there. It seems odd, but from a larger farming perspective, everybody's doing it in tubes or cups or containers or 35 millimeter containers with a lid on them, that sort of thing, so that they can pupate. All right. It's a pretty calm afternoon here. I hope you guys have had a good week. Shipping is going to start to transition into warmer temperatures, and for those of you that do any shipping, like now is about the time I start really watching the weather to see if I need to switch over to my summer template for boxes that have more holes in them. With the change in USPS, I used to use the regional boxes, regional A1 and B1. Yeah, B1. And they recently stopped the regional pricing. So I went through a process of figuring out which boxes to go to transition to. And so I had to make all new templates, do all testing of everything. And so we have settled on, what is this guy? This nice cube box. Started using that. And what is this? This is a box 4, 7x7x6. And then there's a larger box. Their large mailing box is a box 7, I believe. And the shipping prices on those have been very good. So that's going to help keep my prices where they're at, because it's a little less than the A1 and B1, which surprises me because the large mailing box is much bigger than the B1, and yet that's how it's pricing out. So I'll be transitioning over to summertime hole drilling soon for those, and back to the mesh completely. We transitioned over to the mesh, though, a little sooner this year than last year, because I found that it was working okay, and from a cost perspective, it's just easier to buy in bulk and cheaper to buy in bulk, right? And so I was able to go through go through the mesh ones faster. I need to get some more of those here soon. But those, even in wintertime, I was using those. So, Lucas, how bad are grain mites, and what will they do to mealworms production? Also, how bad is this for reptiles' lifespan? Wally, if you were still out there, do you know anything about grain mites or mites in general for reptiles and how that impacts them? Lucas, that's out of my wheelhouse, but hopefully we've got some folks here that might be able to help with that. I was just going to say Nathan might have some feedback. With current outbreak, the mites have not caused any mealworm die-off so far, just more annoying than anything else right now. That's good. But I would also like to note for the group, Nathan, as soon as Nathan saw what was going on, he started measurements to deal with that. I think that's pivotal, because if you start letting that go and you don't address the issue, mites will eventually take over the colony, and so that they will. I Nathan and I I think we're chatting about this, maybe with somebody else. I think that it's not like they are predatory and they're going to purposely eat the mealworms. There's a potential balance there where when you have grain mites, it's not like your entire colony is just going to die and it's over. The grain mites are not purposely attacking the mealworms until they get to a certain point, and then it seems like they just go after them. And so what Nathan and what a lot of folks are able to do is, if you start the precautions to tackle grain mites, reduce your humidity, reduce or remove all your moisture sources. If you can build a moat of sorts around the containers, either with diatomaceous earth, split pea flour is very successful, split pea flour, or like literally put them in a moat. So some folks would put their trays into a container that had water all around it and the mites can't get out. And then start some proactive measurements to deal with the mites inside the trays as well. So rinsing is one of the options. Washing off the mealworms, letting the grain mites go through the mesh, but not the mealworms. And then some other options. The split pea flour will kill it. I want to say it's either Sue or Glenda who's commented in the group before about needing split pea flour that's not old. It needs to be fresh, so that the chemicals within the split peas themselves, they're just dried peas is all it, and ground up is what split pea flour is. You want to make sure that it's coming from a fresh source, or grind it yourself if you have the appropriate equipment for that. But that will also start killing off the grain mites as well. Within the bins. I've also seen people put cups of water, like think about it, like little deli cups or little one-time use cups. That fun Michael Scott Office episode comes to mind. But fill one of those with water. The water will attract the mites to help eradicate them. And then if it's in the cup, it's not hurting the mealworms inside the cup. I haven't tried that myself, but I think somebody posted it here on the group at some point. Wouldn't hurt to do a search for water cup, something like that, grain mites, etc., to see what's out there. Mites use resources. Yep, they're going to eat things within the bin, and then they're not there for the other things. Parasitic mites will attack, yes, so that they will attack, but the grain mites aren't. I've not had an issue where the grain mites are actually attacking those mealworms. For reptiles, a bad infestation will bother reptiles, cause other health issues, and will impact the reptiles' lives. That doesn't sound good. Not good at all. Sue, I had my first beetles from pupa on 2/8, February 8th. I traded out my first nursery bin on 2/26. How long before I will see any babies? I keep looking. You are close. I'm smiling because usually it takes about a month to a month and a half in optimal conditions to start being able to visually see with the naked eye the mealworms in the trays. And I'm smiling because it's a very common question in the group where someone will post, I'm starting to get a little worried. I'm not seeing what I think I should be seeing. And folks will ask, what's your timeline? How long have you been doing this? Are you at about the 4 to 6 week mark? And you are. So I think that you are going to start seeing them very, very soon. A couple things you could try, Sue, depending on what substrate you're using. If you're using oats, this may not work, but what I did years ago, whenever I was curious if what I was doing was working, and then whenever I do testing, I want to know. And when I was using wheat bran, or I'm still using wheat bran, but when we would have wheat bran, I would run my fingers through it, and hold my breath, and just watch. And if you start seeing things moving, and there's no air moving around, you don't have a fan blowing on it, and you are holding your breath. If you breathe, you're going to move that stuff around. But if you start seeing the flakes moving and going, those are babies and they're moving around. You could get out a magnifying glass, depending on what kind of tray you have. If you have a dark colored tray, you could spread that out and then try to look and see. But it's very, very hard to separate a mealworm baby from substrate visually, just naked eye. So a couple of things you could try there, but I'm confident that it's going to happen soon, unless something happened with your temp humidity that might extend that out a bit, but it's probably going to be here pretty soon. Kayla, welcome. Tina, might somehow got past my bleach water moat. Really? Split pea flour at 10% by weight, along with reducing feedings to 2 hours every 3 days, helped eliminate them for me. Interesting. I can't believe they got out of the moat. That's wild. they can't walk on water, right? Like if they're not light, and that sounds weird to ask, but like, are they light enough that they can get across somehow? I don't know. I haven't done the moat thing myself. Because when I got them, I've had them 3 times, and you will remember the times that you have them, because they are not fun. But every time I had them, it was in the old building, and so by that time we were out of the house. I could go in. I threw split pea flour on the ground, and did all the appropriate measures. And Tina, the thing you mentioned there about reducing feedings and remove all your moisture sources. So potatoes, carrots, water gel crystals, lettuce, whatever it is you're using. Take all that out. You are not going to hurt the mealworms by holding back a little bit. And then when you do feed, let them eat for a couple hours and then take anything left out. Because if you leave it in there, that will attract the mites and that will keep the mites going. And so what you're doing is you're basically starving the mites, because the mealworms can go longer without moisture than the mites. And so you're going to feel like you're hurting your mealworms, but it's for the greater good of getting rid of those mites. Nathan, with a naked eye, started seeing my babies at 2 to 3 weeks. Your vision's too good, Nathan. Come on now. But with my humidity now being lower due to the mites, I'm now starting to see them closer to the 4-week mark. Yeah, so I think that's probably equated more to the stress and lack of moisture, right? So good, consistent moisture is going to be very beneficial for their growth. And when that isn't maximized from an efficiency or optimum perspective, then it will extend the time it takes for them to grow, right? And that's a natural, normal thing, right? If you withhold nutrients from something, it's going to have a tougher time growing and expanding and doing what it needs to do. Steve, I placed lettuce leaves in the egg bins. Later, turned them over and used my phone on camera at 10x. I could see the babies. There you go. So Sue, that's a really good tip, Steve. Take some moisture sources, like Steve used a piece of lettuce, nice and light. You could take a really thin slice of potato or carrot or something and put it in the bin, and then give them a few minutes, pick that up, and then look and see. The lettuce, you probably, especially on the green part, you'll be able to see them. I think on the potato, if it's a lighter potato, you might have a little issue, and that'll more likely stick wheat bran to it. But yeah, that's something you could try. Good tip. Wally, I've used diatomaceous earth. There we go. Friday. As a good removal method in the past, big pan of DE on the bottom and the mealworm tub in the bigger tub. There you go. Velazar, welcome. Good to see you. Good afternoon from my neck of the woods. All right, let's do a time check. I get carried away sometimes. All right, we are halfway done. So we are set to go up to for another 27 minutes. Half hour for the non precise crowd, and I can go a little bit over, so that'll be 3:30 Central. I can go a little bit over today, but then I need to get home and hang out with family. Max, 3/4 inch tubing works well for superworms. Yes, I tried. There's that coughing. I don't have my water. I feel like I tried 1/2 inch at some point, and it just didn't seem to work as well. So what I tried recently, Max, this was 6 months ago or so. I tried prescription pill bottles. So let me see if I can pull up the bottles I used. What blew me away is that any regular person in the United States can buy bulk prescription pill bottles, which felt weird to me, but it's possible. And what I liked about them is that they were 3 inches tall, maybe 3 1/8 or something. They fit into those white dough proofing trays from a height perspective. I tried 2 or 2.5 inches at one point, and that wasn't tall enough. They just all started getting out. And so I purchased these 3-inch tall ones, and they worked really well. I did 2 test runs with them. And what I liked about those, so I have PVC, the 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. I tried the 1/2 inch; it just didn't seem to work as well. But it's very heavy. Even the lightweight PVC, when you put, I think one of those dough proofing trays fits like 350 of those, and it just gets heavy. And so I wanted a lighter option. And so I found these prescription pill bottles, and they worked really well. And they were not cost prohibitive. It's kind of wasteful because you don't use the lids at all. I haven't found a use for the lids. That bothered me a little bit. But let me see if I can find that info and get it. If I can't find it while we're on the session, I'll respond to it later, because I think I did get it off Amazon. I'm kind of out. Not in the middle of nowhere, but far enough away that I have to order stuff. Christian, hello everyone. Glad to catch it live for once. I'm glad you're here. You can thank jury duty. So I was going to do this next week on the normal schedule, but I got called in for jury duty. So I figured I'd throw this one out there on a Friday afternoon. I had that open, so here we are. Thanks. A few places are asking for the superworms. Yeah, I wish I could keep them going. But I just have too many other things, because you're right. So like I actually took superworms off my website because I just can't keep them consistently enough. And it was taking focus away from a lot of other things. And so, I don't carry them on the website. I do carry them for my local folks. I still want to take care of them. But for the most part, I don't have them anymore, which kind of stinks. But they are a good item, especially, if you're selling mealworms, you're going to have folks. That's how I got into it. Folks are asking about superworms as well. And from a rearing perspective, from taking care of them, very, very similar. And the only big differentiator for me at the time was the pupation thing, which there's a simple solution for that. And I've got some ideas on how to make that even better. But it's on pause right now. I need to focus on getting the mealworms squared away. From a production capacity perspective. I have more trays coming, and then I think I only need 3 more pallets after that to max things out in there. And then the Black Soldier Fly project is taking off too. So, Belazar, go for small coffee cups. The small coffee cups, I wanted to try to maximize space within those white dough proofing trays. And so I think I could get 300 plus of the tubes, the PVC tubes, somewhere similar to that quantity in when I use the prescription pill bottles. And I can't find that product here, Max, so I'm going to stop distracting myself with it. But I'll reply to this one and let you know which one I used. Because it took me a while. I reached out to a couple of manufacturers or bulk sellers because I couldn't find one that was the 3/4 inch and tall at a decent price point. So it took me a little bit to find that. Advanced mirror classes, and will they have a limit? Is there something on this? The advanced, there's not an advanced class yet. So I did start a course for beginners. That actually started this past Tuesday. It's full at the moment, 10 people. And it's a 1 to 10 scenario basically. So it's me meeting with that crew once every 2 weeks for 3 months. And then in between, we're going back and forth with emails, suggestions, questions, concerns, things like that. And it's geared towards folks who are just starting their mealworm adventure and getting feedback to them on how to get that ramped up, get it stable, and get their colony going in the path that they want to go. So I'm testing that out now, and that's we've got 11 more sessions of that left. And then my hope is that, so I'm working through all the technical stuff, the layout of the meetings and whatnot, and once I get that squared away, I'll start doing some additional classes as well. That's the goal at this point. So we'll see how things go over the next few months, and get things posted if I do something like that. Cheryl, I use stainless steel ramekins to pupate supers. I find that if I accidentally leave them in until they turn to beetles, they're less likely to get stuck than they are in the plastic. Oh, interesting. So they're able to come out easier probably because they're stainless steel. They're not as able to cling onto that. I found that if the PVC got dirty, I mean, this was just a clean your stuff when you're done with it kind of thing, because when you doesn't lead to good stuff, the beetles would climb out, because the superworm beetles, I wanted to say paws, their feet are much more grippy than mealworm beetles. And so when things are dirtier and dustier, it seems like they can get a better handhold and get out of there. But that's a really good tip, Cheryl, the stainless steel ramekins and holding them in. That way, if life happens and you need some time and those things start hatching, you're not, just beetles going around everywhere. Christian, it's because I'm based in the UK, so the time difference is quite lag. Anytime I watch the recorded session, every time I can. Yep. Thank you for that. I need to do maybe some schedule a really early time, really late time for me, and then have an opportunity for some of the folks that are outside the U.S. to be able to come more consistently. It just becomes a time pull for me. Belzer, let's make advanced live video. There are many interesting topics from which we can progress more and help others. We had talked about that a long time ago, and I was thinking about that the other day that I had not followed up with you on that. So I'm going to do that. Let's see what we can get together. Belzer, I like that idea. I feel like it would be interesting if we could pick a thing, a goal of this time we're going to focus on pupa, and just collaborate with each other and talk through here's what we're doing, and try to here's what I'm struggling with, because we had the pupa issues here, that sort of thing, and maybe pick a different topic every few months and try to hone in on that. That might keep the selfish part of me recommends that, because that might keep me a little bit more focused. Every now and then I kind of go everywhere. Case in point, I didn't reach out to you on that, so I'll ping you about that. I like that idea. I like it a lot. What I found from the sessions with folks is that the pros and cons of mealworms, it's both a pro and a con. You can raise mealworms in all different sorts of ways. That's a good thing and it's a bad thing. And so there's not a cut and dry, here's how you should raise mealworms all the time, right? And case in point, I've got 10 folks in this class, and every single person has a different setup, a different set of circumstances around the time they have available, the space they have available, what they want to do with their mealworms. And so what we found, even in the first session, was folks were hearing what everyone else was talking about, and benefiting from that. So I think the group stuff is going to be pretty beneficial. Nathan, what is your recommendation average substrate weight amount that you put in with your 1,500 beetles at the start, and has that been lasting all the way to the harvest time? Second question, no, but that's on purpose. So the amount I'll have to go weigh it, because it's a scoop. That's how I know it now. I bought some scoops months ago, and I used those to. It might have been Justin Penfold that had that suggestion, or somebody here, to a simple way of filling those trays from the side. I did have to modify the scoop a little bit, but for our beetle trays, we take 1 scoop of wheat mids and put that into the tray. That's not enough to get it all the way to the end of the cycle, but we only put 1 scoop in because that quickens the sifting process when we have to do the beetle swap. And so we'll beetle swap, and then we will put another scoop of that substrate in. So I'll get the measurement for you, and I'll respond to this, Nathan, so that you can see what that is. And I'll do it in weight, because wheat mids are much denser than wheat bran, and so I think weight would probably be the best way to equate that. And it'll vary, right? Because nutrient content varies by product. So if we're using 500 grams of mids, you might need 600 grams to get similar protein. And I'm just throwing numbers out, but I can get you a general idea. Mary, you do as well. Wonderful, wonderful. What's your recommendation? Oh, Velazar, 3 to 4 liters of bran. Liters? Oh, come on, man. I'm going to have to do the conversion in my head, because US is stuck and we won't switch over to metric. Liters. I went straight to grams, probably because I'm using things wrong, because in the US we're crazy. Anywho, 900 to 1,200 grams. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. I feel like I want to say a scoop is around 500, and so that would equate with 2 of those being 1,000. So we, with the 1 scoop for the beetles, lay in, and then when we swap, we had another scoop that has another 500 in it. So something like that. course, now that I say that, I'm probably remembering something completely different. Christian, making dedicated masterclass sounds like a great idea. I'm working on an online course in raising mealworms for households and pros. Got a demo at the moment, and I'm 2 weeks from having, I have to hit the more button, 2 weeks from having version 1 done. It would be great having people like you both on board. Would be amazing. It'd be fun to play with that, Christian. I'm curious what your setup is like. What I was struggling with in the first session is I tend to talk a little bit too much sometimes, right? Shocking, right? Especially about mealworms. And I was going over time a little bit too frequently. I wanted to have enough time for each person to go through the things they wanted to talk about. I don't think either there might be too many people, or we might need to have more time, because I don't want to cut people off and I don't want to jam in too much, or not enough, that sort of thing. But I think it's just kind of figuring out that sort of thing. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what you're cooking together. Would love to chat about that. All right, we are at the 3:16 mark, so another 15 minutes or so. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead and throw those in, and we'll get them tackled. Let me go check and make sure I haven't been missing messages from everyone. Tristan. Oh, hey, Tristan. Got your message. Thank you. Nathan, not mealworm related, but how are your quail doing? I'm also starting to get considered. You're starting quail too? It's wild. So quail are doing well. I got 10 females and 3 males in a 15 square foot area. I think 1 square foot was the recommendation, and I went with one reproducing set basically. There's a guy who's probably about 30 minutes from me who does this. That's his big side thing. He's a retired guy doing whatever the heck he wants. It sounds like a fantastic thing. And so I got 13 quail, and they're doing well. They started laying eggs, and I've started to tinker with using things from the farm to feed them. So they'll eat mealworms, 100%. It's a pretty known thing. But I was curious about beetles. So I took some of the retired beetles here, and took them over. And what I found is the mealworms, they would just gobble and go. The beetles, they would pick up out of the container and like put it down on the ground and try to peck it to tear it apart. And I guess maybe kill it. Now that I think about it, if you're trying to eat a live beetle, you don't want the legs moving around in there, right? And so they would eat those just fine. Haven't seen any detrimental impacts to that yet. Excuse me. And this past week, I think Wednesday I started this. I still have pupa die off. Velazar, we talked about that a long time ago. It doesn't seem to be as bad now, which is good. But I'm still having more than I want, right? Like it's more than 10%, which is driving me nuts. And so I don't know why 10%, like in nature, I don't know what the normal survival rate is of pupa, but I feel like getting lower than 10% would be ideal. And so I would take the dead pupa there, like they're not mushy or decaying or rotten or anything like that. They're just dried. It's kind of like when you dehydrate them or throw them in the microwave dehydrator, they're just dried. So I took them over and gave them to the quail, and they were gone. Absolutely tore them apart. And so that was pretty exciting because that's just a waste product right now from the farm perspective. But if it can be utilized for poultry, that's a pretty decent way, I would think, to offset feed. So I'm still playing around with that. It started that Wednesday, so I'm letting it ride for a little bit and just kind of seeing how they change, behave, if anything bad happens, that sort of thing. But so far, so good. That would be an ideal scenario because then the waste products that you have from a mealworm perspective, you can then utilize for the quail. So I'm curious to see how things go with you, Nathan, and the quail. I've got it automated enough that I only have to go out there once a day, which is good from a feeding and watering perspective. And so now I'm already thinking about scaling that and going bigger and et cetera. So I'm doing my typical thing. I'm probably doing more than I should at the moment, but Christian, I'll contact you in private and link to. Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. Very cool. Yeah, I got in a little bit of trouble with family yesterday because I ate almost all the quail eggs. They've been there for a while. So, anywho. Cheryl, I give my dead beetles and my chickens. They love them. Yes. And what's interesting, so Cheryl, when you give have you tried live beetles? I'm curious if chickens will do the same thing where the quail, and the problem I have with it is because my quail are on a wire mesh. And so they would pick these things up and out of the tray and then put them down to like tear them apart and kill them, and it would just fall through the mesh. So I'm curious if you gave your chickens the live beetles, do they do the same thing? Are they going to try and tear it apart with their beak, or maybe with their feet on the ground, something like that, before they eat it? Or are their mouths, beaks, and whatnot big enough that they just, down they go? Try and let me know. Thank you. It'd be interesting. It was wild to watch because they started eating them. I was like, okay, great. And then I turned around, I was doing some other things. I looked over, and there's just like 10 beetles down there moving around underneath in the trays that catch all the quail poop. I thought, what in the heck's going on? And I saw them doing that, so that was interesting. I saw less of that with the pupa, so I think it's tied to the fact that it was alive. Because when I gave them the pupa that was dead, they would just eat that. So my thought is maybe mixing that in with their dry feed. You don't want to get too much protein for anything, so we'll see. It's like quails are trending. Got interested on that this week. Use less space, produce better protein, less noise than chicken. Yes. So I didn't know if it was just me, because on a lot of social platforms, if you're interested in something or you watch something, you like something, you will get fed more of that, right? And so I thought it was just me. But it does seem like there are a lot of people that are interested in it. I have my theories about it from a U.S. perspective, but we don't need to get into any of that. But what's interesting is the nutrient profile of quail eggs is better than a chicken egg. I didn't know that. It has different things in it and more, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, from a U.S. perspective, especially for people in urban areas, it's super easy. Doesn't take up a lot of space, and so I think that's part of what is attracting a lot of people to it. Chickens were the big rage for a while, and I think they're still very, very popular. But there's a lot of restrictions, like the homeowners associations and the noise. You can't have a rooster, that sort of stuff. And so that's probably why the quail are starting to trend at this point. We live kind of out, I don't want to say in the middle of nowhere, but we're far enough away. We don't have any of those restrictions, but I went with the quail because I can contain them inside year round, without having to worry about them being outside. And it was just an easier thing for me to take on. I've never taken care of poultry on my own. And so I wanted to start with something that was easier to take care of during the wintertime, just to get used to it before I had to elevate and do things outside. But now I'm already thinking about taking over some of the greenhouses here and potentially putting quail inside of there and yada yada. But we'll get there. Dyed quail eggs are awesome at Easter. So I have Caturnix quail, and they're like speckled and whatnot. I wouldn't think, I guess the dye would still apply, right? Like you'd still be able to see it, is what I'm saying. Like I know it's going to apply, but like I guess you could still see it in the white parts of it. So yeah, might give that a try. Absolutely. I live in an HOA and no chickens allowed, but quail are not regulated. Not yet, Nathan, not yet. What's interesting is the male quails will still do the rooster thing. It's just not as loud, but I can see that potentially being bothersome to folks within an HOA area. Just saying. All right. Good stuff. Yeah, I started the quail both for personal reasons, but also as a way to test out things here at the farm. And so, from a test out perspective, I mean like the product, the waste products, the live beetles, that sort of thing. And so I'm really curious to see how that pans out long term, with feeding them some of that. So good stuff. I haven't tried the soldier fly larva with them yet. I'm getting down to where I don't have very much of that left, of the larva, and so I need to get another round of that going. I'm going to try to get 100 to 200,000 neonates, and get those rolling to get some more going. So we'll see how that goes. Keith, I see your DM here. I'm taking a look. Oh, I got you. So Keith is trying to post, and for whatever reason, Facebook's been really wonky recently. Multiple people have said they can't comment or see the comments. But the sensor, and this was probably, so the sensor, that 8-in-1 sensor from Inkbird, in the post for the giveaway, there were a few images attached that had some detail on the different measurements of like which levels of CO2 are good or bad, etc. And so that link is out there in the group. Nathan, don't be giving my HOA committee any ideas what they don't know. I just wanted to let you know that I know we had talked in the past about your garage setup with the mealworms. And so I didn't know if there was a window in place yet. I think you were going to vent through the top, and so you didn't have to mess with that. But if you do leave things open or cracked or whatever, the male quail could echo out into the neighborhood. So I grew up in a subdivision, so I'm keenly aware of the personality differences that folks have when it comes to subdivision type life. Humans are not meant to live like that. Just saying. All right. We have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left. So keep asking questions, guys. And if I don't answer them here on the session, I'll go back through. So let me do a little mini wrap up, but we'll keep going just in case folks need to drop off. Be respectful of everybody's time here. So Facebook will get this once I'm done here and trigger the process. Facebook will review this, make sure we haven't done anything bad or terrible, and then this will be posted to the group along with all of the comments there. And then I'll go back through, and there are a few that I need to respond to with some links and some other things. Face mask and Max, there was something for you. The beauty of it is it's in there. And so, the prescription bottles. And so if anybody else posted anything that I didn't see or reply to, I'll go ahead and tackle that, get that squared away. And then we'll get another session on the books and posted roughly 2 weeks from now. So next week I won't be available, and maybe we'll do one the week after. We'll shoot for that. So we're off just a little bit, but there'll be enough advance warning. I'll try to do different days, different times. And then probably need to work on wrangling a slot for a day and time slot for folks outside the U.S. And we'll have a session early morning, late evening. I just need to schedule around family with that and get things squared away, but I'm 100% willing to do that. So I will reach out to the group, the co-op group. I'll post something to see what interest there is. I know we did one for the Aussie folks at one point, but see if we can get one of those together. All right, Nathan, currently working on getting items together to ventilate my AC through a 5-inch through the drywall dryer vent. I can easily and quickly patch that back up whenever I move out. There you go. I like it. I like it a lot. And a 5-inch should be able to move enough air volume in the square footage that you've got. So that's fantastic. That is one of the first things that comes to mind for me, because the fan we're using now actually could exhaust more air than the opening that I have. And so I need to work on opening that up so that it can ventilate more efficiently. So that's what happened in my brain there. Cheryl, see you later. Have a fun next week. Thank you. I will try. I did get an exemption for Monday. So I was supposed to report Monday morning, and I reached out and said, I run a small business. I'm the only person that can do the orders on Monday. Can I have Monday? And then I'll be available Tuesday through Friday. So I'm going to lean on the guys here next week, Brett and Ben, We had a little bit of turnover. I didn't talk about that. Leo has moved on to bigger and better things. He found some things he wanted to invest his time in, and so Leo had his last day last week. So we've got Brett in there with Ben and I. So he's in there doing pupa right now, but he's doing awesome. So those guys will help me out next week, keep things rolling, and orders will go out as normal on Monday. So we'll see if anything interesting happens. But if it does, I don't think I'm supposed to talk about it anyway. So, but thank you guys for jumping on this. If there's any last minute questions, please throw those out there. But this will get posted. Thank you for all the questions above. Really appreciate when you guys jump in here and share what you guys are doing. The conversations around getting some different folks together. Really enjoy that. Looking forward to hearing from you. And as always, I appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Everybody have a really awesome weekend. If there's anything else you need, please reach out to the group, do a quick search, do a post. We'll be happy to take a look and answer. Thank you all very much. Take it easy.